My parents said my sister deserved it more and gave her the heirloom meant for me, so I took back what was mine and made them pay for their broken promise. Sunday dinner at my parents' Victorian home in Springfield follows the same predictable rhythm every week. The familiar scent of pot roast and rosemary potatoes fills the air. Mother insists on using the good china despite the occasion's informality, and father carves the meat with his usual methodical precision. Even the drive over is routine. 15 minutes across town, past the courthouse with its copper dome gleaming in the afternoon sun. But today something feels different. The front door stands partially open, and instead of Mother's immediate greeting, laughter filters down from upstairs. I slip inside, my footsteps muffled by the antique Persian runner that lines the foyer. "Hello?" My voice bounces off the walls, unanswered. The laughter grows louder as I climb the stairs, following the sound to Mother's bedroom. I pause at the threshold, momentarily invisible to the room's occupants. The heavy oak door frames a scene straight from my childhood nightmares. My sister Phoebe stands before Mother's ornate vanity mirror, her cascade of chestnut curls, so similar to grandmother's in the black and white wedding portrait on the wall, arranged elegantly around her shoulders. But it is what sits atop her head that freezes me mid-breath. The pearl-studded Juliet cap, its delicate beadwork catching light from the bedroom window. Mother hovers behind her, adjusting the cap with reverent fingers. "You were born to wear this," she whispers, voice thick with approval. "Just look at how it frames your face." The antique pearls shimmer like dewdrops against Phoebe's dark hair. My stomach knots as 20 years of cherished dreams disintegrate before my eyes. A small, involuntary gasp escapes my lips, and Mother's eyes dart to the doorway, finding me in the reflection. Her hands freeze on the cap. "Oh, Emerson, we were just trying on some things for when Phoebe's day comes." Her voice carries that artificial brightness she reserves for uncomfortable situations. My mouth goes dry. "But I'm getting married in 4 months," I manage to stammer, hand instinctively moving to the engagement ring on my left hand. Phoebe turns, the cap still perfectly positioned. She laughs, the sound light and dismissive. "You never mentioned wanting it." She touches one of the pearls with manicured fingertips. "Not once. I didn't think I needed to." The words emerge softer than intended. Mother's reflection shows a flicker of discomfort before she smooths her expression. "This is a family tradition, dear. The cap goes to the daughter who truly appreciates its history," I complete mechanically. The familiar phrase lands like a stone in my chest. The room shifts around me, and suddenly I am 10 years old again, kneeling beside grandmother's cedar chest in the attic, the smell of mothballs and old wood filling my nostrils. The lid creaks as grandmother lifts it, revealing treasures wrapped in yellowed tissue paper. "What's this?" I ask as she lifts out something delicate and shimmering. "This," grandmother says with reverence, "is the Juliet cap I wore when I married your grandfather." She places it gently on my head, her eyes crinkling with delight. "Someday when you're a bride, you'll wear it too." Later, she shows me photographs of herself in 1952, radiant beside grandfather on the church steps, the pearl-studded cap holding her veil in place. I trace the image with my fingertip, memorizing every detail. For years afterward, I fill journal pages with drawings of my future wedding day, the pearl cap always the centerpiece of my veil. After grandmother's funeral, I watch Mother carefully preserve the cap in tissue paper, tucking it away for safekeeping. The first signs appear when I am 14. Phoebe has the classic family features. Mother remarks at dinner, examining my sister's face with approval. The Thompson cheekbones, Mother's eyes. Christmas that year, Phoebe receives grandmother's cameo brooch, while I unwrap a generic silver bracelet from the mall. At family gatherings, Phoebe's achievements, her perfect report card, her ballet recital, her winning science project, earn effusive praise, while my academic honors and writing awards receive polite nods. Phoebe is the spitting image of my mother becomes Mother's constant refrain. I tell myself it does not matter. The cap is still mine, promised on that dusty afternoon in the attic. The memory dissolves as Phoebe adjusts the cap in the mirror, tilting her head to admire how the pearls catch the light. "May I please wear it for my wedding to Daniel?" I ask quietly, voice steady despite the hammering in my chest. Mother's sharp intake of breath punctuates the silence. "Oh, Emerson, we couldn't risk damaging it," she says, as if explaining something obvious to a child. Phoebe removes the cap with careful hands, placing it on a velvet cushion. "Besides, it complements my features better," she adds with a small shrug. "Everyone says so." The bedroom door swings wider as father enters, his Sunday paper tucked under one arm. "What's all this about?" he asks, surveying the scene with mild interest. "Emmy wants to wear grandmother's cap for her wedding," Mother explains. Father's expression softens into the patient look he reserves for what he considers my impractical notions. "You know family traditions, Emmy," he says gently. "Some things just make sense a certain way." And in that moment, with crystal clarity, I understand. There was never any tradition about which daughter would wear the cap. The tradition was created for one purpose, to ensure I would never have it. 30 minutes later, the dining room clock ticks with maddening precision as Mother serves pot roast onto bone china plates. Father unfolds his napkin with the same methodical motion he has performed every Sunday for 30 years. No one mentions what happened upstairs. "These potatoes are exceptional," Father says, breaking the silence that stretches between us like a wire. "You've outdone yourself, Patricia." I pushed the food around my plate. My appetite vanished. The image of Phoebe wearing grandmother's cap refuses to fade. "Emmy, you've barely touched your dinner," Mother notes, her tone deliberately light. "Everything all right?" Before I can answer, Phoebe launches into a detailed account of her latest work project. I watch Mother's face transform with interest, nodding and asking questions. When was the last time she showed that level of engagement with my career? "Your sister's quite the rising star," Father comments, beaming at Phoebe. Then he turns to me with a different expression, indulgent, patronizing. "You've never been one for sentimentality, Emmy, always so practical. The label stings because it is so fundamentally wrong. I have kept every birthday card, pressed flowers from significant moments, and maintained journals since childhood. My apartment brims with mementos. Yet in their narrative, I am the unsentimental daughter because it justifies their favoritism. I'd lend you the cap," Phoebe offers with a smile that does not reach her eyes. "But traditions matter in this family, don't they, Mother?" Mother nods, pleased. "Indeed they do." "Didn't your grandmother always say the cap was for her first grandchild's wedding?" Aunt Vivian asks, reaching for her water glass. She came 15 minutes earlier, unaware of the incident, yet somehow she knew and squeezed my hand under the table. The question drops like a stone into still water. Mother's fork freezes midway to her mouth. "More potatoes, anyone?" she asks too brightly, rising from her chair. "Vivian, help me bring out dessert." I drive to Aunt Vivian's farmhouse the following afternoon, questions churning in my mind. Her porch swing creaks as we settle with glasses of sweet tea. "Your grandmother was very specific about her wishes," Aunt Vivian says, retrieving an old hat box from her hall closet. Patricia knows this perfectly well. She places a bundle of yellowed envelopes in my lap. The handwriting on them, an elegant, sloping script, makes my throat tighten. Grandmother's letters. "Go ahead," she encourages. I open the first envelope with trembling fingers. "My dearest Vivian," it reads, "the Juliet cap should grace my first granddaughter's wedding day. Little Emmy has her heart set on it, and I've promised it to her. Make sure Patricia remembers this when the time comes." The words blur as tears fill my eyes. I pull out a faded photograph tucked inside, me at age 10, sitting on grandmother's lap, the pearl-studded cap tilted on my small head, both of us beaming. "There are more," Aunt Vivian says softly. Letter after letter mentions me by name, describes my fascination with the cap, reiterates grandmother's promise. The final letter, dated just months before her death, is explicit. "The Juliet cap belongs to Emmy. She treasures its history more than anyone." "Your grandmother intended it for you," Aunt Vivian confirms, her hand warm on mine. Patricia deliberately reinterpreted her wishes. She's always favored Phoebe, though heaven knows why. Armed with this evidence, I visit my parents the next evening. Mother listens stiffly as I spread the letters on their kitchen table. "That's not what she meant," Mother says finally, barely glancing at them. "It's exactly what she meant," I reply. "She names me specifically in every letter." Father peers at one letter, then shrugs. "Can't you just buy something similar?" David's bridal must have options. The suggestion slices through me. To him, one white headpiece is interchangeable with another, devoid of history or meaning. Phoebe enters the kitchen, assesses the situation, and immediately tears up. "You're trying to ruin my future wedding?" she accuses, voice quavering perfectly. "This is so like you, Emmy, always wanting what's mine, what's mine." The audacity steals my breath. "Some traditions simply suit certain people better," Mother says, gathering the letters into a neat stack and handing them back to me. "I'm sorry you feel slighted, but my decision stands." I leave without another word, unshed tears burning behind my eyes. Daniel holds me that night at our apartment as I finally break down, curled against him on our sofa. "I don't understand," I whisper between sobs. "Why has it always been like this?" His arms tighten around me. "Because they're wrong, Em. Not because you're unworthy." My phone buzzes with a text from Leanne. "Your mother called asking about rehearsal dinner preferences. I told her to talk to you directly. What happened? I call and explain everything. They've always done this to you," she fumes. "Remember your high school graduation? Your mother spent the entire ceremony taking photos of Phoebe in the audience." The next day, Daniel's mother calls. "I heard about the situation with your grandmother's cap," she says gently. "I have my mother's vintage hair clips. They'd complement your dress beautifully if you'd like to borrow them." Her kindness brings fresh tears. Even my wedding planner, Melissa, proves an unexpected ally during our next meeting 3 days later. When I explain the situation, she nods with understanding. "Your wedding should reflect your story, not theirs," she says, showing me a portfolio of alternative headpiece options. "And honestly, we can design something even more meaningful." For the first time since Sunday, something inside me unclenches. "I'm not asking their opinion on the venue," I announce, surprising myself with my firmness. Melissa smiles. "Good for you." The next milestone comes during my dress fitting the following Tuesday. In the bridal salon's private room, surrounded by mirrors and champagne flutes, the consultant adjusts my veil. "Any family heirlooms you'll be wearing?" she asks. The question catches me off guard. "I once dreamed of wearing my grandmother's pearl-studded Juliet cap," I admit, voice cracking slightly. In the changing room afterward, I break down again. "It was all I ever wanted for my wedding day," I confess to Leanne, who holds tissues and patience in equal measure. The consultant knocks gently before entering. "I couldn't help overhearing," she says, her eyes kind. "What does your perfect day actually look like?" The question stops my tears. I have been so focused on what has been taken that I have not considered what I truly want. One where I recognize myself, I answer slowly, realizing the truth only as the words emerge. She nods, understanding something fundamental. "Then that's exactly what we'll create." Looking at my reflection, white gown shimmering under salon lights, I see past the missing cap to the woman beneath. For the first time, I wonder if breaking free from their expectations might be a different kind of inheritance. One grandmother would have valued even more than pearls. The next day, while preparing for a client meeting, my phone buzzes for the 5th time in 20 minutes. I stare at the screen, watching Phoebe's name illuminate again. The Instagram notification beneath it reads, "Phoebe Kelly tagged you in a post." My thumb hovers over the alert before I finally tap it, a familiar sense of dread washing over me. The photograph fills my screen. Phoebe with hair professionally styled, makeup flawless, grandmother's pearl-studded Juliet cap perched atop her head like a crown. The caption beneath reads, "The pearl-studded Juliet cap, our family heirloom, will be mine someday. #family tradition, #heirloom jewelry wedding traditions." The comments scroll beneath like a chorus of approval. "You were born to wear it," writes Aunt Meredith. "Just like your grandmother," adds cousin Rebecca. "Absolutely stunning on you," Mother has commented, adding a string of heart emojis. I set the phone face down on the kitchen counter, my hands trembling. The morning sunlight streaming through the window suddenly feels too bright, intrusive. Daniel appears at my side, his coffee mug pausing halfway to his lips when he sees my expression. "What's wrong?" he asks, setting his mug down to peer over my shoulder. I wordlessly turn the phone toward him. His jaw tightens as he reads, a muscle working in his cheek. "This is deliberately cruel," he says finally, voice low with controlled anger. "They know you're getting married in 4 months. They know you wanted that cap." 3 days later, I sit at the Springfield Country Club, surrounded by family celebrating my grandparents' 60th anniversary. The linen tablecloth feels crisp beneath my fingers as I twist my napkin into a tight spiral. Across the table, Mother beams as she accepts compliments about Phoebe, who is wearing a navy dress that Mother probably selected. "Phoebe will make such a beautiful, traditional bride," Great Aunt Martha announces to the table, patting Phoebe's hand. "She has the Kelly bearing. Always has." Uncle James nods sagely. "The perfect debutante bride of the future. Your mother showed me the photographs with the cap. She'll wear it just beautifully," Mother agrees, her voice carrying just enough to ensure I hear it. I pull my phone from my purse, opening the wedding countdown app. The screen blinks back at me, 112 days. I have been planning for years, dreaming since childhood, and now find myself without the one item I had always envisioned as part of my day. Daniel squeezes my knee under the table, a silent reminder that I am not alone. The next morning dawns clear and cool. The antique shops here have always been my refuge, places where history is valued but not hoarded, where stories are meant to be continued, not locked away. The bell above Fairchild's Antiques jingles as I enter. Mrs. Fairchild, at least 80 with hands gnarled by arthritis, smiles at me from behind the counter. "Emerson, haven't seen you in weeks. How's the wedding planning coming along?" "It's progressing," I manage, not quite meeting her eyes. She studies me with the keen perception of someone who has witnessed decades of human emotion. "Come with me," she says suddenly, motioning toward the back room. "Got something new in yesterday." I follow her past cabinets of depression glass and vintage jewelry to a small display of wedding items, a collection of handkerchiefs with tatted edges, satin pillows for ring bearers, vintage cake toppers with frosted faces. "Something borrowed, something blue," Mrs. Fairchild murmurs, carefully lifting a delicate handkerchief edged in pale blue thread. But my attention has fixed on something else. In the corner sits a simple basket filled with bundles of dried baby's breath, the tiny white flowers still perfect despite their dried state. Mrs. Fairchild follows my gaze. Ah, those. Simple beauty never goes out of style, does it? I lift a bundle, the stems thin and delicate between my fingers, the tiny blossoms catching the light like miniature stars. "I wore wildflowers in my hair for my wedding," Mrs. Fairchild says, her voice softening with memory. "My mother had this elaborate tiara that had been in our family for generations. Everyone expected me to wear it." My head snaps up. "But you didn't?" "No." Her smile deepens the wrinkles around her eyes. I looked at myself in that tiara and saw my mother, my grandmother, everyone but me. So I walked into a field the morning of my wedding and gathered wildflowers instead. "What did your mother say?" I ask, barely breathing. Mrs. Fairchild laughs, a sound like wind chimes. Oh, she was furious. But Harry, my husband, said I'd never looked more beautiful. She pauses, patting my hand. 63 years we had together before he passed. Not once did he mention wishing I'd worn that tiara. I purchased 3 bundles of baby's breath, cradling them like precious cargo as I leave the shop. For the first time in weeks, a sense of possibility unfurls within me. Authenticity over tradition. That evening, Daniel calls with news. "I met with that florist in Auburn today," he says. "She completely understands what we're going for. No fussy arrangements, nothing overdone." "You did that without telling me?" I ask, surprised. "I wanted it to be a surprise. Your mother kept sending those links to Marjorie. I supply the name automatically. Mother's bridge partner who specializes in elaborate cascading bouquets that cost more than my monthly rent. Yeah, her. Anyway, this florist I found, Tessa, she's amazing, says she can incorporate whatever elements matter to you." He pauses. No pressure from anyone. Later that night, Leanne texts me links to independent dressmakers. "Just options," her message reads. "Places your mom doesn't have on speed dial." My future mother-in-law calls the next morning. Daniel mentioned there might be some tension about venues, she begins carefully. "Robert and I would love to offer our garden. Spring flowers will be at their peak in 4 months. My wedding planner emails a list of photographers, caterers, and musicians, all small businesses, none connected to my family's social circle. Vendors who will respect your vision," she writes. "People who listen to you." I stand in my living room, surrounded by these messages, these offers, these people creating a protective circle around my wedding day, around me. The realization washes over me like warm water. I have people who see me that evening. I sit cross-legged on my living room floor, the bundles of baby's breath spread before me. With careful fingers, I begin weaving the stems together, forming a delicate crown. The dried flowers are surprisingly sturdy yet light. I imagine wearing this instead of the pearl-studded cap, a crown of my own making. My phone rings. Mother's name appears on the screen. I take a deep breath before answering. "Emerson, I've been thinking about the rehearsal dinner seating. The Hawthorns should be at table 1, of course, and we'll need to separate the Millers from the Westons after that unfortunate incident at the charity gala. Daniel and I have already decided on the seating arrangements," I interrupt, my voice steady. The silence that follows stretches like taffy, but we always handle these arrangements, Mother finally says, confusion evident in her tone. "Not this time," I reply, gentle but firm. I twist another stem into my growing crown. We're keeping things simple, just close friends and family at one long table. But that's not it's how we're doing it, I say, surprised by the quiet authority in my voice. I should go. Daniel and I are meeting with the photographer tonight. After we hang up, I hold the completed baby's breath crown up to the light. It is delicate yet surprisingly strong, just like the small seed of resolve growing within me. I walk to the mirror in my hallway and place it atop my head. The dried white flowers frame my face like a constellation of tiny stars. For the first time in months, I recognize myself. The next day, I spread a mood board across my dining table. Photos of garden weddings, simple table settings with wildflowers and mason jars, bridesmaids in mismatched dresses the color of spring leaves, no crystal candelabras, no formal 5-course meals, no family crest embossed on every surface. Daniel leans over my shoulder, his hand squeezing mine as he surveys the images. "This is us, not them," he says softly. Later that afternoon, I approve the final design for our wedding invitations, simple cardstock featuring pressed wildflowers instead of the Kelly family crest. There is no mention of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Kelly request the honor of your presence. Instead, it simply reads, "Emerson and Daniel invite you to celebrate their marriage." I run my fingertip over the raised texture of the dried flowers pressed into the paper. This wedding will be ours, this life will be ours, and I will be recognizable to myself within it. Mother arrives at my apartment unannounced the following Tuesday morning, her knuckles rapping against my door with familiar authority. I barely have time to set down my coffee mug before she sweeps inside, Chanel No. 5 announcing her presence. "I've been thinking about your wedding dress," she announces, settling onto my sofa uninvited, cream-colored purse resting primly on her lap. "I spoke with Madame Rousseau about altering my dress for you, the same confection of lace and beading she has been pushing since Daniel proposed." "I already have a dress, Mother." I busy myself collecting stray magazines from the coffee table, avoiding her eyes. "But tradition, Emerson." She emphasizes my full name the way she always does when displeased. "A Kelly bride in something borrowed. Something borrowed, like the cap she promised Phoebe." Her phone chimes, she glances at the screen, then quickly tucks it away, but not before I catch the photographer's name. "Did you just contact James Preston?" My voice sounds steadier than I feel. A flicker of discomfort crosses her face before she composes herself. "Well, that boy you hired with the artistic notions, Trevor, his work is..." "Did you cancel my photographer? James has done all our family events since your graduation," she says, as if this explains everything. "He knows our good angles." I walk to the kitchen, needing distance, and tell my mother to leave. She does, shock on her face. Between the cutting board and knife block sits today's mail, including an envelope in Father's distinctive handwriting. Inside, a check for $5,000 with a note reading, "For a proper wedding. Love, Dad." My phone buzzes 10 minutes later. Phoebe's tearful voice fills the speaker when I answer. "Emmy, please." She hiccups dramatically. Mom's beside herself. "You're tearing the family apart with this rebellion." The word hangs between us, rebellion. As if choosing my own photographer, my own dress, my own vision is an act of war. "I'm getting married, Phoebe," I say quietly, "not starting a revolution." After she hangs up, I sit at my kitchen table and write a note to Father. "Thank you for your generosity. We've got this covered." I tuck his check inside, seal the envelope. No anger, no accusations, just boundaries finally erected after 31 years. The wedding planning website asks for my password. I change it to something Mother would never guess. Daniel and Emerson only 2025. And send Trevor an email confirming our agreement with a postscript. "Please direct all communication through me personally. No family interference." In the evening quiet, Daniel and I relocate our rehearsal dinner to Riverview Gardens, a place only our closest friends know about. I make reservations under his last name. "Are you okay?" Daniel asks, his hand warm against my back as we finalize the details. "Better than okay," I answer, surprised to find it is true. I close my journal where I have written, "My wedding will be authentic, not performative." The next morning brings an unexpected call. Margaret Holloway's voice, wavering with age but clear with purpose, fills my ear. Grandmother's friend, calling from her retirement home in Oak Ridge. "I saw Phoebe's post about that cap," she says without preamble. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you standing your ground." "You knew about the cap?" My throat tightens. "Elizabeth always said it was for you. She told me how you sat for hours drawing it in your little notebooks." Margaret's voice softens. Some people rewrite history to suit themselves, Emerson. Doesn't make it true. After that, wedding RSVPs begin arriving directly to my email, rather than through Mother. Aunt Joanne, Uncle William, cousins I have not spoken to in months, each message carrying subtle solidarity. Father appears at my office Thursday lunch hour, awkwardly holding a paper bag containing a sandwich from my favorite deli. Your mother means well, he begins, his standard opening when peacemaking. I know she does, Dad. I accept the sandwich but not the excuse. That evening, my phone chimes with a text from Cousin Stella. Can I be seated away from Aunt Patricia? Like you, I need some space. I stare at the message, understanding blooming like a time-lapse flower. I am not alone in finding the family dynamics suffocating. Others have felt it too, have been waiting for someone to break the pattern. The final dress fitting feels like victory 2 weeks later. No mother hovering with suggestions, no Phoebe commenting on how certain styles might be more flattering. Just me and a seamstress who smiles approvingly at my reflection. The gown falls in simple lines, the ivory satin catching light without sequins or beads. My shoulders look stronger than I remember, my posture straighter. You look like yourself, my wedding planner Tessa says quietly. On the vintage vanity sits my creation, a delicate crown of baby's breath with tiny vintage pearl pins nestled among the white blooms. Not an heirloom passed down, but something new, created with my own hands. I place it carefully on my head, the weight familiar from practice. In the mirror, I see a woman I recognize, someone who makes her own choices. This feels right, I whisper, and for the first time in months, I smile without reservation. The evening before the wedding arrives, Mother appears at my apartment door one final time, holding a familiar box, its velvet covering worn at the corners. I've brought the Juliet cap, she says, voice strained with effort, just in case. I look at the box, at the treasure I once coveted, then at my mother's expectant face. Thank you, I say gently, but I've made my choice. Confusion clouds her eyes. It's what we've always done, she protests. It's what you've always wanted, I correct her softly. Something shifts in her expression. The first fragile recognition that maybe, just maybe, there is a difference. Morning sunlight filters through the oak trees the next day, casting dappled patterns across the garden behind Daniel's parents' home. I sit on a wrought iron bench, still in my robe, watching butterflies dance between the hydrangeas. For the first wedding morning in Kelly family history, there is no frantic rush, no precisely timed appointments, no mother directing bridesmaids with military precision. Water? Leanne appears beside me, offering a crystal tumbler with cucumber slices floating on top. Thanks. The cool glass feels reassuring against my palm. Is it strange that I'm not nervous? Leanne settles beside me, her bridesmaid dress a soft sage green that complements the garden. Not strange. Perfect. Across the lawn, my bridesmaids arrange wildflowers in mason jars wrapped with simple twine, no formal bouquets, no color-coordinated ribbon cascades, just blooms gathered fresh this morning. The absence of Mother's preferred florist feels like oxygen. Ready for your crown? Leanne holds up the delicate circle of baby's breath I crafted yesterday, tiny white blossoms intertwined with ivy sprigs and secured with nearly invisible wire. Nothing like the elaborate pearl-studded Juliet cap I dreamed about for 20 years. I nod, closing my eyes as she places it gently on my head. The weight is almost non-existent, yet I feel its presence like an anchor to this moment, this choice, this freedom. Take a look. Leanne guides me to the vintage standing mirror we positioned beneath the maple tree. The woman reflected back surprises me, my simple silk dress falling in clean lines, unadorned except for vintage buttons down the back, my hair framing my face in loose waves rather than Mother's preferred structured updo, the baby's breath crown sitting like morning frost, delicate and ephemeral. I recognize myself, I whisper. A slight movement in the mirror's edge catches my attention. Mother standing in the doorway, watching, her expression shifting between confusion and something I cannot quite name. She opens her mouth to speak, then thinks better of it and retreats inside without a word. You okay? Leanne asks, adjusting a strand of my hair. Surprisingly, yes, and I mean it. The garden transforms throughout the morning, white market lights strung between trees, simple wooden chairs arranged in a semicircle, a handcrafted arch covered with greenery. No grand floral arrangements, no monogrammed aisle runner, no string quartet. Just the garden where I spent childhood summers reading under trees while Phoebe practiced ballet poses on the lawn for Mother's approving gaze. Daniel waits beneath the arch, his grandfather's pocket watch chain just visible against his vest. When our eyes meet across the garden, his smile breaks like sunrise. No rehearsal dinner disaster, last-minute vendor crisis, or family drama can dim the certainty in his eyes. I spot Phoebe's arrival from my hiding place near the kitchen door. She is overdressed in a formal cocktail dress and heels that sink slightly into the grass with each step, glancing around as if expecting familiar trappings of Kelly family events. Ready? Father appears beside me, adjusting his tie nervously. We stand in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken conversations between us. He looks at me properly for what feels like the first time in years. "Emmy," he begins, then stops. His eyes drift to the baby's breath crown, then back to my face. "You look like your grandmother right now." My breath catches. Is this another comparison where I will fall short? Not because of any heirloom, he continues softly, but because of your grace. The words land like pebbles in still water, sending ripples through years of collected disappointments. "Did you know she wanted me to have the cap?" I cannot help asking. "I suspected," he admits, "but I've never been brave enough to challenge your mother on things that matter." We begin walking toward the waiting guests, my hand resting lightly on his sleeve. And now? Now I see what courage looks like. His voice roughens. "I'm sorry it took so long. The path to Daniel feels both endless and instantaneous. When I reach him, his hands close around mine like coming home. Our vows contain no mention of family traditions or proper roles. Instead, we promise partnership, growth, and the creation of our own path forward. When Daniel speaks of your quiet strength these past months, tears spring to my eyes. He has seen the battle behind my peaceful exterior, the determination beneath my smile. Applause surrounds us as we share our first kiss as husband and wife. I catch glimpses of unexpected expressions, Great Aunt Martha nodding with approval, Uncle James wiping suspicious moisture from his eye, Father standing straighter than he has in years. At the reception, conversations flow around me like water. "Most authentic wedding I've attended in decades," says Mrs. Whitaker, Mother's garden club rival. "Your grandmother had that same spirit," adds Uncle Thomas, pressing my hand. "She never did care much for pomp." The photographer captures moments I never planned, Daniel spinning me under apple trees, Leanne laughing with my cousins, guests dancing barefoot on the grass. Not a single staged family portrait with forced smiles and perfect posture. From across the garden, I notice Mother overhearing guests praising the refreshing simplicity and genuine warmth of our celebration. Her face tells a complex story I cannot fully read. As evening descends and market lights twinkle overhead, Phoebe approaches, clutching the familiar velvet box. "You don't need the cap," she says quietly. "You never did." I wait, sensing there is more. "I was jealous," she continues, tears brightening her eyes. "Not of the cap, but of how you always knew yourself. I only knew who they wanted me to be." She extends the box. "Grandmother would want you to have this. I know that now." The moment stretches between us, the cap finally within my grasp, the dream suddenly within reach. I place my hand on the box but do not take it. "Keep it," I say gently. "I've found my own way." As Phoebe's fingers tighten around the velvet, I notice for the first time how young she looks beneath her perfect makeup, how uncertain beneath her practiced confidence. The crown of baby's breath sits light upon my head as I turn back toward my husband and our future, blooming where I have chosen to plant myself. 6 months later, the Christmas tree in our living room stands adorned not with expensive ornaments but with memories. Wedding photos hanging between twinkling lights, my baby's breath crown clearly visible in each frame. Daniel adjusts a handmade ornament, a miniature wreath of dried flowers, before stepping back to admire our handiwork. "First Christmas as the Thompsons," he says, wrapping his arm around my waist. No dress codes, no assigned seating, no mandatory gift exchange. I lean against him, savoring the peaceful quiet of our home. The dining table awaits our guests with mismatched vintage plates I collected from thrift stores, no family china in sight. The gifts beneath our tree are mostly experiences, concert tickets, cooking classes, weekend getaways rather than objects that gather dust. When the doorbell rings, I do not rush to smooth my hair or check my lipstick. The woman who opens the door is someone my family might not recognize, confident, relaxed, unburdened by the need for approval. The evening unfolds without familiar tension. No one criticizes the cranberry sauce or questions my choice of centerpiece. When Father asks about our honeymoon hiking trip in Colorado, he actually listens to my answer instead of waiting for his turn to speak. The phone rings 3 days later, Mother's name on the caller ID. "Would you show me how to make that crown?" she asks, voice carrying a note I have never heard before. "The one you wore at your wedding." It was distinctive. From Mother, this is practically a declaration of surrender. At the family New Year's gathering, I find myself in the garden with my 16-year-old cousin Sarah, teaching her to weave wildflowers into a simple circlet. Her fingers fumble with the stems, but her face glows with concentration. "Aunt Patricia always says I should wear my hair up to look more elegant," she confesses. I hand her another daisy. "Then wear it loose." Phoebe arrives wearing jeans instead of her usual cocktail dress. When Uncle James remarks on her casual appearance, she shrugs. "I wanted to be comfortable." Our eyes meet across the patio. Something has shifted. Months later, for our first anniversary, Daniel and I returned to the garden where we married. "I found this at your grandmother's friend Margaret's house," he explains, as I unwrap a framed photograph of grandmother in her garden. Hands dirty from planting, face alight with joy, no pearl cap, no formal pose. I turn the frame over and discover a note in familiar handwriting. "To my Emerson, who always saw beauty in simplicity." Tears blur my vision as understanding washes over me. The real heirloom was never the pearl-studded cap, it was her spirit, authentic and unbound by others' expectations. That evening, I place fresh baby's breath beside my preserved wedding crown, now displayed in a shadow box on our wall. In the mirror behind it, I catch a glimpse of my smile, so like grandmother's in the photograph. My journal sits open on the desk, today's entry still drying. Heirlooms aren't always objects. When the phone rings with Mother's caller ID, I answer with peaceful certainty. The woman I have become does not need anyone's approval to recognize her own worth. Sometimes an heirloom is not about the object itself, but about how you hold on to dignity and authenticity in the face of family expectations.